We're up to the mission of Lama Ches Samad Aleph. I remind myself on Friday, we learned the Gemara a few days ago that Rava said he remembered he was in the yeshiva of Nachman, and they were learning Perek Hamafkid, and he asked him a question about Shilim or Lotzer Shava. Then he said, Nachman ignored me, and the good thing he did because it wasn't much of a question. Reminded me when I was a young kid, about 8, 9 years old. We were in the Catskill Mountains, and in the Catskill Mountains, we were in a bungalow town called Glenwild, and not far from us, less than a mile away, was a hotel called the Zucker Hotel. The Zucker Hotel was these old Yiddish hotels where the Rosh Hashivas and Rabbanim of of New York, and around that area would go there for the summer. We call it dacha. And among those who went there was also Moshe Feinstein. So we were in the country, we were in the bungalow colony, and we had a malamed. He used to teach us every day before we ran out to play. And I don't know why he decided one Shabbos he'll take me and another one or two boys to visit Rav Moshe Feinstein. And he was going to ask Rav Moshe to test us on the Gemara. We were learning Perek Hamafkid. And he was going to ask him to test us on the Gemara. Don't know how he had the chutzpah to do that, but that's what he decided. So he takes us on a Shabbos stroll after eating, and we walk down to the Zucker's Hotel. And before we got there, we actually met Rav Moshe was walking on the road with his gabbai or his student, and they're walking. So our Malamed was only 20 years old or something. Turns to Rav Moshe and he says, I just came to actually meet you with these young boys here. And Moshe said, no, child, whatever. And he said, the reason why I was bringing them is because they're learning Perek HaMafkid, and I thought it would be good if you could faher them. And Moshe then stood there for about 15 minutes, and he fahered us right there on the road on HaMafkid, beginning when we just started, the beginning of HaMafkid. He gave me the most beautiful bracha about becoming Talmid Chacham, all that kind of stuff. And then he said, you know what? Why only one Shabbos? Come to me every Shabbos. So every Shabbos in the summer, we were 8-year-old kids, 9-year-old kids. We went and he fahered us at HaMafkid. So when I'm learning HaMafkid now, we're bringing back memories from the Zucker Hotel. Anyway.
That's very nice memories.
It was. By the way, I was 8, 9 years old. When we were 17 years old, we went, the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent us to Caracas, Venezuela to open a yeshiva. So after a year, we were there, but we came back. So our Rosh Yeshiva took us, 10 of us, we were a group of 10, to Rav Moshe, to his apartment on the Lower East Side. We spent about an hour there. We were talking learning. He told us some beautiful stories. I might have shared with you one of them. I can't remember. At the end, every one of us went by him and we shook his hand and he gave them a brach. This is in 1978. When I go by and he asked me my name and I told him, he looks at me for a second. This is now 10 years later. He says, "Nu, shegevarna Talmid Chacham." I said, it's a work in progress. But he remembered. So it was very nice.
His bracha was Mekuyim, Baruch Hashem.
No, it's a work in progress.
Keeping a work in progress, but it's amazing how the bracha is true.
I think Moshe could be very proud of his bracha.
Okay, cool then. We're up to the Mishnah. Hamafkid paid it. Somebody stored paid it by his friend. Afilu hein avudim. So Reuben gave Shimon to mind his paytas. Afilu avudim. They're deteriorating, and so over time they're losing value. Lo yiga behen. You're not allowed to touch it. You're not allowed to sell it. You're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to touch it. All the Mefarshim and the Rishonim have a problem. We learned in the Gemara before that you have to, take care of the animal. If you're minding the animal, if it's costing too much, you got to sell it. You're allowed to sell it. So what do you mean over here and here? Why shouldn't you be selling it? So the general answer is there's a difference between Hashavas Aveda and this is a Pekodin. Hashavas Aveda, the owner has no idea where the item is. So therefore, you have to do whatever it takes to make sure that the owner can get it back. The owner knows he deposited by you. If the owner knows it by you and he knows that fruits over time, that they're perishable, it's up to him to sell it. And if he didn't sell it, then you have no right to either. Okay, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, in fact, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, Moichron bifnei bezna. She was said, you sell it before because shehu kemeishav aved lebaylam. He says that no, you have to help the balabas out. You have to help them out, and therefore you should sell it. There's a big question in halacha. What happens if you don't, according to Gamliel? And then it sort of deteriorated over time and completely rotted. Are we going to hold you liable because you're a shamer, and a shamer is chayiv for negligence? Are we going to say, hey, you had an opportunity to save this guy's fruits, you should have. If you didn't, we're going to hold you responsible? Or do we say we don't go that far? That we want you to sell it, but if you don't, we're not going to hold you responsible for not selling it. Machlekes. Anyway, I said the Gemara, my time, what's the reason? What's the reason you shouldn't sell it? Why not? Amar Rav Kahana. Adam roitze, this is a very interesting saying. Adam roitze bekav shaloi mitisha kaven shechavene. You enjoy something that belongs to you, even though it's only one kav, one measure, much more than if you get something from somebody else, even 9 measures. Even 9 measures, because since it's my fruits, I don't want the money, I don't want to sell it, it's mine. Why? As the Rishonim say, Yigia kapecha kisecha. Rashi says over here that why do you enjoy your more than anything else? Because you work for it. Aidesha amoben, you work, you toiled, and therefore it's yours. Which means, according to the Mefarshim learn Pshat and Rashi, if you bought something and it's mine, we no longer say, oh, you enjoy it more than, kav shaloi more than tzichavechveda. It's only when you put effort into it. So because it's my koiches, yigia kapechel, yigia, it's hard work. And therefore we said, if it's mine, I'd rather have even a small amount. I'm happier with that than a large dose of, a present, but it's not mine. But the Ritva learns, even if you bought it, if it's mine, I have a certain kinship or something that's mine, and don't readily sell it. Now, if you remember, we had the Kedushin there, that's the base, that you shouldn't sell the first house that you ever bought. It's a bad mazel to sell the first house that you ever bought. There's something about ownership that there's a certain relationship to you and the object, and you don't just give it up. Even though you can make a profit, make money, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so one reason why you shouldn't sell it is because the owner would rather not sell it. He'd rather have the fruit, even though it's worth less, than converting it to money. Now, Nachmitzcha said no. You know why you shouldn't sell it? Because Chayshinin, we have a concern, a side issue altogether. What Shema Asan Hamafki Truma Ma'aser Al What happens if maybe the mafki, the owner of these fruits, decided to use the fruits that he deposited with you to be the truma, and when he'll take it back, he'll give it to a kohen, he'll give the truma on behalf of the fruits that he has at home. So the fruits at home he's eating, they're no longer tevel, because he decided to use the fruits in your house. So you cannot sell it because it's now truma. The fact that it's mice is irrelevant because most we pass on the Yisrael is a lot of mice. So the problem is the truma. Says the Gemara. Now we do know there's a din that you take truma but be min hamukaf, that the truma be alongside next to eating and removing hevel. But here we're saying that the fruits are deposited by one person, and I'm using that for the fruits of my house. How can you do that? So the Rishonim already say there are extenuating circumstances where you're allowed to. For example, it's 2 days before Shabbos, you don't have time to do anything. Then you can rely on even if it's not Menamukah, far away, you can go ahead and do that. But further, you shouldn't sell it either because maybe he made a or the fruits, even though it's worth less because it's part of it rotted, then something else. Maybe I'll ask a question, someone else's money. I'll ask a question, somebody stored fruits by his friend, had illegal, but you shouldn't touch it. Therefore, Balabai is the other way around. The law is that you shouldn't sell it. And once we put that law into place, that you shouldn't sell it, then you go back to the owner, and we say to the owner, well, now, if you want, you can use it as truma and maisa, because you know that he won't sell it. Nobody is going to end up eating truma. Therefore, The balabas can rely that the fruits are still sitting with that person that he deposited by, and therefore he can use truma ma'aser. Now, so the reason ultimately why we don't want the guy to sell it is because the owner enjoys a kav of his own rather than 9 kavin. Okay, so now that we put this law into place, we tell the owner you can be so certain that the guy never sold it, it's still sitting there. Use it as your truma, use it as your ma'aser. You're telling me what my lefichach. You're telling me that that since the depositor cannot sell it, you owner can go ahead and use it for truma. But the reason why the depositor cannot sell it is because the owner already made truma out of it, and that's why we tell the depositor don't sell it because you might be machsh, you make a stumbling block for somebody. So the fiqh is wrong. So Gemara says hash. This is how we learn according to Nachman Yitzchak. In other words, we're saying that we are worried that maybe the balabas used that fruit to give truma. If he would have asked the Rav, we would have told him don't do it because maybe the guy sold it. So but the guy made a new law. We don't want to shame it. Maybe the balabas used truma, even though you shouldn't have. We would have told him not to, but maybe he did it anyway. So don't sell it because you might sell to Yisrael truma. Once we put that law into place, we go back to the original Babu and we say the fruits. We say, you know what, go ahead and make truma. No worries. Okay. So the Chashidim we worry the therefore balabais also truma is called mokum al mokamach lechatchil. You can go ahead and make it truma. Comes along now Rabbi Yochanan and he adds the following. I'm going to qualify this din. Machlekes. When is the machlekes in our Mishnah that the Tanakama says don't sell it, even though it's rotting away? And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says no, you have to help the guy out. Be a shema, make sure the pilot help him out. It is davke bichdei chsreinen, natural attrition, which we're going to learn in a few days, what's considered natural attrition, or how much is normal to lose within a week or 2 weeks. But if it's, let's say, rotting a lot quicker than normal, then everyone says, go ahead and sell it. In that case, everybody says, go ahead and sell it. Because it's a perishable item. Now, what exactly means Yosem B'dei Chesreinen? Rashi says if it's a little bit more, and what's B'dei Chesreinen? So Rashi says Chesreinen is, and Mishnah says later, a certain amount per month or so. Takes the Torah disagrees, and he says if a year's, even if it rots a bit more than normal, a year's rotting in 2 months, that's. But if it's more than that, only then do we say go ahead and sell it. So now the Gemara wants to know. Rabbi Yochanan definitely argues Rabbi Nachman Yitzchak, because according to Nachman Yitzchak, who cares if it's rotting away quickly? But you can't sell it because the owner might have made truma out of it, and how can you sell it to anybody? They might go ahead and eat truma. But the question is, Ad Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana said we don't want you to sell it because of kav shaloi. What's the exact word of Kahana? You'd rather have 1 kav of your own versus a multiple of 9. So even if it rots a lot more than usual, so now it's like so now it's being reduced to 1 kav, and if he stops it right now and sells it, he'll have 9 times as much. It would seem, according to Rav Kahana, you shouldn't sell it. Rav Kahana disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says if it rots a bit more than normal, go ahead and sell it to save the guy. According to Rav Kahana, Adam writes a bekav shaloi, 1 single kav, in contrast to 9 kav, and that's what I will give him. Then according to him, even Yosem B'dei Chesreinen, you shouldn't sell it. Says you want to know. Kikon Rav Kahana B'dei Chesreinen come out. Rav Kahana is talking about if it's natural attrition, don't sell it. He'd rather retain it. Says the words he used was you'd rather retain, even though it's only 1 kav, rather than 9 kav or somebody else's. Says the Gemara Guzma Ba'al. It's merely exaggeration. Merely exaggeration. Mesa, that's another question. It says the balabais can go ahead and make truma. The balabais can rest assured that it's the deposit is sitting by the nifkid, and therefore he can go ahead and rely on that and make it truma meiser on behalf of the tzur sitting in his house. Now Now that you've suddenly introduced the idea that it's possible, the nifkid halachically must sell the fruits and the tvua and the grains in a case where, for example, it's rotting more than normal. So how can we say to the owner, go ahead and make it truma, no problem? What do you mean no problem? What happens if he'd rotted more than usual? The guy would have sold it, and now and the guy, what do you call it? Would have sold it. How could you even make it truma? It's not there anymore. It's not around his place anymore. It's not even there. You can't rely on it. What's pshat? Maybe he sold already. How can tell the owner, don't worry, you can go ahead and rely that it's sitting there and make it? But now we just said if it's more than its natural thing, you can sell it. The Gachal Tivlim. It's so uncommon for everything has a natural attrition rate, and generally speaking, that's what happens unless there's a terrible heat or something. Otherwise, why would you assume that it was worse? If we can rely that everything is good, it's still sitting by the shayman. Says the Gemara. So that's the question. The imishtach. What happened to the poil? The poil it rotted natural than the natural attrition. The nifkid, we tell the nifkid, go ahead and sell. The problem is, but you just said that the balabais can go ahead and make it truma. How do you know the balabais didn't make it truma? So how can you sell it? How can, now that we've made all of these halachas, we put them into place, that the original guy can make it truma, and so on. But if it rots more than the chesreinen, you can go ahead and sell it. How can you sell it? It might be truma already. We watch it in. If sell it, maybe it turned into truma. Says the Gemara. When we say that you can go ahead and sell it if it rotted more than in its natural course, then what we mean is sell it to kohenim. There is no problem. What's the worst thing that will happen? That it was turned into truma. A kohen is allowed to eat truma. The only thing is you cannot get the full value. You'll only get it the cheaper value with kohen. But made truma, with kohen pay maybe 20% reduction on the price because there's a much smaller market. That's what you do. Says the Gemara. No. So what was Amnachlam Yitzchak's problem? Amnachlam Yitzchak said that we don't want you to sell it because maybe he made a truma. So why don't you allow him to sell to kohenim? So you want to ask, Amnachlam Yitzchak Nami Nizavninu lekohenim. Why don't you sell to kohenim? It made truma. Why didn't you sell to kohenim? It made truma. Says the Gemara, Bahar Pligis. I'm going to explain. This exactly is the argument, and that is. The Rabba Bar Chana Rabbi Yechon, they hold that it never happens, and and if it does happen, it takes a long time. What happened? It takes a long time, even if it's rather more than usual. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time, and because it takes a long time, on the other hand, so we told the balabos, you can rely that the truma is there. He didn't sell it. When does the balabas make truma? Usually straight away. If he has tevel, he has to take care of it straight away. He makes the truma straight away. So he definitely, if he used it, he would have done it already. He would have already made a truma. So if you tell the guy, sell it, and only to kohenim, everybody's happy. If the balabais would have made a truma, a meiser on the rest of his crop, he would have done it before it really rotted away. Therefore, if it rotted more than normal, there's a kohenim, sell to kohenim for the money of truma. So no problem. But Amnach Mitzchak doesn't agree with that. You know why? He holds, he said it's quite common. And it sounds like, they're arguing in a Metzias, what this person says, it takes a very long time, this person says it takes a short time. It sounds like they're arguing, what is the definition of Yesem Mirdech Yisrael? How much more does it have to rot than normal before we say, this is unnatural and you got to do something about it? And obviously, Rav holds that if it rotted less than what Rabbi Bachana holds, it's still considered Yesem Mirdech Yisrael, and therefore you need to sell it straight away. So now, because he says it happens pretty quickly, it's quite possible that it would have been sold before you decided the owner to make truma. And because you decided the owner to make truma, you're going to make truma after it was sold, and the tvua is no longer sitting by your shomer. That is why I rule that you can never, ever sell it. And it's not going to help you selling it to a kohen. Because the problem is you sold it and only afterwards the owner is going to make it truma, and it's not a valid truma because it's no longer by the shayman. And if it rotted away straight away. Yeah, but if you tell them that you can sell it, zimnin the kodim or sometimes the shamer would sell it pretty much straight away. Then by the time the balabayis decides, okay, I'm going to use that tavua to make it truma layada, he doesn't realize the zavna besold because and the owner is eating tavul because the truma was never valid. Says the Gemara Metzia, ask your question. Amafke pays a chaver. Somebody stores paid it by his friend, he kibla and it rotted away. Yayin wine became sour. Now wine becoming sour is yosim mechdei chesroinen. It's not it's useless now. Fruits when it began to rot, so just on the edges, but the middle is all right. Here, wine became sour, it's useless. So it sounds like we're talking about yosim mechdei chesroinen. It completely rot away. Shemen v'hivish, oil became foul, rancid. Or dvash v'hivish, and same thing with honey became rancid. Hareza lo yigabhen. You do not sell Rameir. Rameir holds that even in this case, you don't sell it. It sounds like Rameir holds that even if you lost it more than its natural state, don't sell it. And the Chacham say, Oiselehem takana, you fix it up. We'll soon see later how do you fix it up. But you do sell it. But if you so here we have our question. You said that everyone agrees if it rots away completely, that you can go ahead and sell it. Here we see the machlekes Rameir and the Chacham. And meanwhile, we digress. When you sell the sell to others, don't sell to yourself, because people will suspect that you cheated the system somehow and you got into a bargain. If you're a fundraiser, you have no poor people, you want to swap it over to larger coins, let other people swap it over, not yourself. Because people will be distrusting, say, you must have cheated. The person who collects those big platters of food, no poor people to distribute it, you sell it, but to others. Getting to that question, however, pay to the keeper, foods are routed away. My love, afilu yesem chesreinen. It seems to me when we say is that rabbi, it's this brayta that talks about is wine. That's the same. We're talking about excessive rotting. Says when it comes to the fruits, we're talking about the natural nutrition, and that's why we have a machlekes. It's just like Rav Shimon all these other examples, the yesim that's worse. That's excessive. Says the Gemara, shiny honey, those are different. Even the come. What's the whole idea of selling it? So you can save at least something, get some value out of it. These things, once wine became vinegar and once the oil became rancid, it doesn't get any worse. That's it. It's over. So there's no point in selling it anymore. No advantage, because whatever it is, keep the come. Now it reached the stage, that's what stays the rest of the time. Shemen v'hivish, dvash v'hivish, that's a simple question. L'may chazum, you're talking about, it says you should sell them. You can sell them. Right? The Chacham say you can sell them. What's a person going to do with sour wine or rancid oil? What can you do with all that? Says the Gemara with honey. Where it says shemen chazil legaldoy, oil that you cannot eat, you can still use it. The tanners will still use it. And dvash, like teacher the gambling, dvash, honey, the cuts that a camel has from the saddle that it bites into it, eats into it, that's what they use the honey for. So it has a use. Anyway, the Chacham said, "Oh, so with the kanda, you fix things up." What takana? Once the oil is ruined and once the honey is ruined, what I mean? Fix it up. Save the barrels at least. If as soon as the honey goes off, or the oil goes off, the wine goes off, you toss it out and you keep barrel, at least you save the barrel. If you let the honey sit there, it'll ruin the barrel as well. That's what it means by takana. Says the Gemara, what exactly is the argument between Rameir and the Chachamim? So everyone agrees if it's more than it's excessive, everyone agrees that you can sell it. You're only arguing when it's just normal. What exactly is the argument? When there's a large loss, then we will try to help you out. The normal course of events, apples over time, begin to rot. But if it's a normal course of time, then we are not worried. And especially because the owner knew that's what happens. And if the owner doesn't mind it's sitting by you, that means the owner's not worried, so you don't have to worry. Even a small hefsed, you also chayshish. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Rav Shimon Gamliel Mishnah said, no, I want you to sell it and do the mitzvah Shabbos Aveda. Itma Rabbi Yaakov Yechon Halacha Rav Shimon Gamliel. And Rabbi says, Rav Nachman Halacha Kedivre Chachamim. The halacha is like the words of the chachamim that you shouldn't sell it. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yechon said the halacha of Shimon Gamliel. Rabbi Yechon already said it once. Rabbi Yechon Kol Makom Sheshan Shimon Gamliel are saying you give a general rule. Rabbi Yechon had a few rules that the halacha like a Stam Mishnah. He also said the halacha is always like Rav Shimon Gamliel, except in 3 instances. Halacha is a chutz, except when it comes to an arev, which is a separate story altogether. Tzidin, get by tzidin, and the raya chrein. If you go to a bezin and you say to them, "We have no longer any evidence," and then you come along and say, "You do have evidence," whether we accept it or not. So once you have that rule, the halacha Shimon Gamliel, why does Rav have to come along and why does Rabbi Yechon have to come along? Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yechon said halacha Shimon Gamliel. Says, well, you're right. There's 2 opinions. One opinion says Rabbi Yechon said always halacha Shimon Gamliel, and the other one says lav dafke. But in this case, yes. Says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, nishma the maridin for Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who says that you sell it in order to help out the owner of the crop. We learn out another halacha. If somebody was taken into captivity, what happens to his properties? We just leave it there desolate, or do we go in and send somebody in to try to maintain it so that it should retain its value? Like a mitzvah Shabbos Aveda. So he said, from the words of Shimon Gamliel, that a Shabbos Aveda means you have to go beyond. It's not just holding it and giving it back to you. I have to protect it, I have to maintain it. It's all part of Hashavas Havedas. We learn out another din. The Maridin Kadev will send down a relative to the state of a kidnapped person, to help out, to make sure that it doesn't deteriorate until the owners come back or released from captivity. But the Rabbanon say we don't have to help you out; we just keep it. Nishma the Maridin Kadev the Shavit. But you don't seem that's the argument. So I don't see how you relate the 2 halachas. Dilma, perhaps. Let's go through each one. Shimon says that what? I want you to go ahead and sell it and save it. The fruits are perishing, and eventually they'll completely be worthless. So you got to sell it. You have no choice. I will hustle by land, even if he does the wrong thing by the land never gets totally ruined. It always comes back. So therefore, by land, there's no reason to send somebody down because they'll never get totally ruined. So why should we intervene? Or on the other hand, nobody about to say over here that we don't sell El Ilav Kahana because the owner would rather keep a cab of his own than 9 of somebody else's. Or Nachman Yitzchak was scared that the owner made truma out of it, and you're going to give away truma. I will host them over there by a property. If you do send somebody down, nothing can go wrong. Somebody down. The Memra says, what are you telling me? Today, time and 2 different machlekes and totally unrelated. So Gemara, and Shmuel elsewhere said that my reading that we do send down a relative to the estate of someone taken captive. So we see in both cases he paskins. It seems that the link because he paskins the same way in both cases. So it's more asked, it's all the same reasons. No, 2 different machlekes. And it happens to be that he paskins in both cases in a similar way. That makes sense. No, Rabbi said because Rabbi said Neir Nachman, halacha kediv rachamim. Rabbi said Neir Nachman that you do not sell it if the fruits are rotting. And Amar Rav Nachman, and yet Rav Nachman himself paskin my reading you do send that a relative to the state of someone taking captivity. How can you pass in both the 2 contradictory halachas? Shmamina 3 time 2 separate reasons. Shmamina, it's a good proof. Says the Gemara, Itmar. We learned now that we mentioned about somebody taking captivity, whether you should send somebody down to his estate and to maintain it. We'll see. There's actually a machlekes. We learned. Rav said you do not send down a relative to work the field. Shmuel says you do send down a relative to work with the field. Says the Gemara, if you heard that the person taking captivity never passed away, everyone says that you should go out down there and fix it up. Why? If it turns out to be it's not true, and the owner actually comes back, then he'll have a good field to come back to. And if the owner does not come back, well, you're a cutter. You're entitled. It's your field. You're yashin. So manushich, you should go into the field. And if the owner does come back, you still get something. You'll get the law of a sharecropper because you worked in the field, so you're entitled to whatever the meaning in that place is, a half, a third, or a quarter. So keep pligi b'shloshama. You did not hear the person die. What happens then? Rav says, you know why? Kedil mafshalu. When does a cutter work hard if he knows that eventually it'll become his? But if the owner is still alive, it might never become his. He won't put the effort in. And in fact, not only won't put the effort in, he will ruin the field because he'll continue planting there all the time. Leave the go fallow, and it'll completely ruin the field. Therefore, maybe you shouldn't just let things go the way they are. Shmuel says, since we say, look, if the owner comes back, we're still going to compensate you for all your time and your effort. You're going to get paid just like a sharecropper. God is then why? Then he'll put the effort in because he thinks, first of all, Kubel Yashin, the whole field is my field. And even if I don't Yashin, the guy comes back, I'm still going to get paid for my services. So you'll take care of the field. Make like a question. Hashem says, I will be angry, and I will kill you with a sword. And then the pasuk says, and your wives will be widows, and your children will be orphans. Now, isn't it obvious? If the father gets killed, the husband gets killed, the wife is a widow, and the children are orphans. Why is the pasuk spell it out? I know that the wives are widows and children are orphans. That your wives will be widows. Melamed, that even after the husband died, the wife, the rest of her life will remain a widow like a laguna. She can never get married because we have no evidence that the husband died. That's part of the punishment. Melamed and Shasayim unless they want to get married, we will not let them get married. And the children, when they want to go down to the father's estate, Yashin, we don't allow them to. So what does he clear from here? That like Rav, that a kodev cannot go into a shavu's estate as long as we don't know the person died. Amarov is no kasha. When we say don't go to the state, we mean don't go to the state and yashin it and treat it as if it's yours and sell it. No. You want to go to the state and maintain it? Yes. It could be the person still. But no, when you said go away, mean don't go and sell. The Gemara have the story, an incident in the door. Pashta Rav Sheshes Muhammad Nisi. Rav Sheshes ruled based on this mission that the kid should not enter the field. The father is taken captive. The kid has no right to go in the field and work on it. Because we didn't hear that he died, we don't know if he's alive or not. How do you know pshat here is that he shouldn't enter the field? Maybe it means he shouldn't sell it, but he can definitely enter the field and work on it. Amalei said to him, Dilma me Pumpadisa. It sounds like you're a student from Pumpadisa. Why? The ma'ailin me Rav Amr said to Rav Sheshes. The ma'ailin pila bekupa de machta. You take elephants, you put them through the eye of a needle. In other words, you're constantly making purple and splitting hairs. Here it doesn't work. You know why? Because the other example is of the widow. He says that what? That the child shouldn't go in just like the widow. Now, what's the case of the widow? The widow can never get married. So too, the child cannot enter the field at all. At all to get married. I disagree with you when I hold the child cannot go into the field. So we have a machlekes. If there's a shavu, somebody taken captive, if we hear he died, then we do send a relative in. Because Manushech, he'll work hard. But if we did not hear he died, the Rav says not in because he won't work hard. And Shmuel says you do. Send him because he'll get paid out as an aris anyway. And it seems to the price so like Rav. The Gemara, Rav disagrees. The Gemara, this did we bring a relative in to take care of the assets of the one who's kidnapped is a machlekes tanai. The Tanya we learn, and if the shavli, if somebody goes into the field of a shavli, we have three cases. Case number one: if somebody entered the field of somebody taken captive, we won't take it away from him. And not only we won't take it away from him, the truth matter is we'll ask someone to go in there to help out. Use the expression "won't take it away from him" is because the next case we'll learn do take it away. So here it says as a translate. Below, not only that, elafilu shama. Better yet, the field, you didn't hear the person died or not. You have no idea the person died or not. And then you went in, you're working in the field. Suddenly you hear that the guy is alive and is coming back. You're back in a few weeks. Elafilu shama. even if he heard, Shememashmashin heard, Shememashmashin, but even if they what that he's coming back, the Kodam Vitolush, and he has a right to go in and harvest the entire yield before the guy makes it back. The Evachel Hareze Zoris, he is somebody who makes great haste, and it's to his benefit. So clearly it says that he's allowed to work the field and he can keep all the fruits, not just like an oris, a sharecropper. He can keep all the fruits that he worked for. What's an example of nichsei shavuim that we say that you can go there and work the field? Somebody who's one of his relatives that's going to bequeath his inheritance to him. Went overseas. And we heard that the guy died. And that is the din is you can go in and work and you get to keep everything. Even if it turned out to be a lie, you get to keep everything. If it turned out to be that if you never heard the guy died, then we that's a machlekes Rav and Shmuel, and we said that you can go in and at least get paid like an oris. What about nitushim? If you entered the property of somebody who was natushim, natushim means somebody that lost, had to be separated from his field, he had to run away, as we'll see, and didn't give any instructions because he couldn't. He was in such a rush, such a haste that he couldn't give any instructions. Then we actually take it away from you. The guy is alive, we don't let you have it. So we see from here that, like Rav, that if the guy is alive, we don't send anybody into the field. What's the definition of tushim? They did not hear they died. You shouldn't enter the field, like Rav. But I heard Shahanatushim is kishavuyim. I heard that natushim is just like shavuyim, and that you do go into the field. So this is machlekes Rav and Shmuel. What about if you enter the field of ritushim? Ritushim are people who walked away their field, but they had plenty of time to give them instructions, and they didn't. Then sorry, I skipped the line. We don't let you into the field. And what's the definition of they were here. Then we don't, they just disappeared without giving any instructions. That means that what? It's as if to say, I don't want any of you guys to go into my field. I'm giving you instructions. I don't want you. I don't need your help. I don't want you. And the tushim is when the owner had to disappear. Says the Gemara, so why are the group of people that had to disappear are called nitushim, as if the property was taken away from them? And those who were sort of opted to leave and didn't bother giving instruction are called nitushim, but they abandoned the property. Where do we get these words from? So the Gemara explains. Nitushim, the balkarcha against their will, we find by Shemitah. That Shmiis itself is everything becomes hefker, then itash is taken from you after the malka, the king. In other words, you don't have a choice in the matter. I did tell you last time there's a big chakira by Shemitah. Do you have to make it hefker, or that automatically all your fears become hefker? And the expression after the malka sounds like the king takes it away from you. The king is mafkiya, removes all your properties. The king makes it all hefker. Retushim, the medai tushim is you abandon your property and you didn't give any last minute instructions, which means you don't want anyone on your field. Where do you find the expression of tushim? Because it says in pasuk, the Shea is talking about the future and a terrible time. He says, "Aim al bonim rocha," that the men disappear and the wife and the children rocha leave behind. He will leave behind on his own. This is a decision he made. Tana, we learned We learned that all it says it before in the Braisa, all of them are treated like an oris. Which case exactly we're talking about? They are treated like an oris. Says the Gemara. What it goes? Ahai. On which case is it talking? Referring to Ilema Ashvu in the very first case that they were taken captivity, and you heard that he died, and you went into the field and you worked hard. We said that if you heard the guy coming back, you can sell the entire field and the entire crop, and it's your good luck. So you tell me I only get paid a third, a half, and a quarter. I get paid the whole lot. If I hasten and I sold the entire crop, it's my benefit. You're telling me that any improvements in the field, I get a share, I get the whole thing. Ella, what do you call it? Ella Aratushin. Talking about the case of the Tushin, where you walked away, and by the Tushin, we said that nobody should come in. He didn't leave instruction. So what Pedagogos? How much is This is clearly that you don't get anything. We chase field. Ella must be talking about the middle case of Netushi, where you left, you had no choice, and you didn't have a chance to give anybody. So going to the field, you paid like an oris. So I don't understand. The Rabbanan say you shouldn't go into the field at all. Rav Shimon again says, no, I hold this like Shvuyin, that you're allowed to walk in the field, which means you can keep the entire crop. So who is the one that says you only get paid like a oris, only a ship? Laman, we send you away. They say Shemaiti, Shatushi Kishwin have the same state as a Shvuyin. So when answers Kishvuyin Shvuyin, now the same thing as Shvuyin, they will let them stay there, but they don't get paid the same thing as a Shvuyin. Why? Bishvuyin, the Ein Mitzi and Oisim Yodeh. On the one hand, they're like Shvuyin, we won't chase you away. But Veloy Shvuyin. In the case of Shvuyin Hossam, Zodis Veniskin, there we let you keep the entire crop if you were smart enough to take it, collect it, and harvest it before the owner came back. He only get paid like an oris. Why is this different? Why talk is this different? Tanya, how is it different? And we learned in the case, so there's a woman got married, she brings in these nichse malay, she brings in these assets, these properties, and they're plucked because she retains ownership of the assets, and the husband is the one who works it, and he gets the dividends. So what happens if Hoitzi Harba, he spent a lot of money building up the field, he ate very little, and then the wife divorced him. Or Kima, he ate a little bit, and he made a big profit. So we say, Masha Hoitzi, whatever he expended, Masha Ochel, whatever he ate. But we don't give him, we don't say, oh, he spent so much money, let's pay him like a sharecropper. We don't say that at all. What's the difference? So when it answers, it's the wrong analogy. Hole Damya, you know what we compare it to? The following case, and we'll explain to the logic. He's married to this young woman who's a minor, and a minor, she was married up by her brother, by her mother, which she has the right to walk out of the marriage. She can do miyun till 12 years old. She can walk out. So you, the husband, are constantly skeptical. You don't know. I'm going to invest all of these efforts into the property, and tomorrow she can walk away and take the whole property back, and I have nothing. So in that case, we feel where we feel that you're not going to put your effort in because you're concerned. We made a special takana. We promise you we're going to compensate you like a sharecropper. You're going to get half, third, or quarter, whatever the custom is, so that you should put the effort in. But in the case where we are satisfied that you are going to put the effort in, we're confident you put the effort in, then we don't give you any extra special things. So this goes. It's like a fremde. Alma kiven the loisamcha daita, because he's not so reliant on it. The kinele rabban made a special keheched the loyle sadinu, because he thinks to himself, why should I put any effort in? So we say, no, it will compensate you. Is hachanami here too? In the case of the tushim terabanan keheched the loyle sadinu. In the case of the tushim, you don't know, the guy might be coming back. He didn't hear that he died. He might be coming back. Why should I put all this effort in? He's going to come back and take it away from me. Is hachanami ketei rabbanon kedei lo shouldn't lose out. So more than last time the price said here, the kulon shamin lenkara, they all get assessed like an oris. Who's this all? The kulon. See, like we just down to one case, the case of Netushim. So who is this all? My lasuye. What are you coming to include? What answers hard the Amar of Nachman Amar Shmuel. This is what we said before, that a shavui shenishba, he not here he died. Shmuel says you do send down someone into the property, but what happened? The guy comes back, he'll take it all back. Yotza, and Yotza Ladas, but then Shmuel says, if the guy left Ladas, he left, then Ein Ma'idin Kolav L'Chasim. Then we do not send down a relative to the L'Chasim because he should have given instructions. The fact that in itself was an instruction, as if he was saying, I don't want anyone. But Nachman did that. Nachman himself adds another case. But Reach, Hareyu Kishavi. If somebody has to flee, he's like take captivity, he wasn't settled, and therefore he didn't have a chance to give any instructions. He didn't have a chance to give any instructions. So the Gemara, what is so we're coming to include what we're answering here is when it says Kula, we pay like an Urus, we're coming to include the case of Nachman when somebody flees a chance to give any instructions. That's also included, that at least will give you like an Urus. What do you mean he fled and didn't have a chance? When he ran away, he had to pay head tax. He didn't have the money. It doesn't happen straight away. He knows it's going to happen soon. He had time to give out instructions who should take care of what. So therefore, if he didn't, then we should have no right to come in and go in and help. Talking about somebody who ran away because he murdered somebody. Remember the end of the Gemara Bava Kama, the Parsim were terrible that if you murder somebody, they're going to murder you. I'm not sure exactly why that's terrible. In America, you have capital punishment for people who commit murder. But anyway, so if such a person fled, his mind wasn't settled, and therefore he didn't give instructions. That's when we say, "Hakol lasui mai lasui." This case that we'll give you like an others. We'll pause for a few seconds, then we'll